Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the day two of Research Priorities in Agriculture Extension. We are delighted to have you join us as we embark on the journey to explore and discuss the critical areas of focus in agriculture extension research. As we know that we are standing on the cusp of a new agriculture era characterized by rapidly advancing technologies, changing climate patterns, and shifting global markets. It is imperative that we identify and prioritize research areas that will shape the future of agriculture extension. In this program, we will delve deep into the pressing questions and emerging trends that demand our attention. We also thank you for being part of this important conversation, and we hope that by the end of this webinar, we will have gained a clear vision of research priorities that guide the future of agriculture extension and contribute to the prosperity and resilience of agriculture communities. For today's program, the theme is empowering farmers locally, research priorities in national agriculture extension. We have with us two esteemed speakers who will be dealing with this topic. The first one is Dr. P. Sethu Shivakumar sir, and we have Mr. Sajesh Gupta sir. To introduce our first speaker for the day, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. P. Sethu Shivakumar sir, a distinguished specialist in technology commercialization and entrepreneurship development. Dr. Shivakumar's career has been marked by profound commitment to innovation, research, and the advancement of agricultural technologies. Dr. Shivakumar currently holds the position of Principal Investigator, NAIF, and in charge ICR CTCRI Agribusiness Incubator at the Central Tuber Crop Research Institute. His tenure at CTRI spans over a decade, over 4 years, during which he has played a pivotal role in fostering the development and commercialization of innovative agriculture technologies. Dr. Shivakumar's dedication to the advancement of science and technology is not limited to a single institution. He has also been a Fulbright postdoctoral fellow at the Department of Psychology, Florida State University. During his time there, he dwelled into intriguing domain of influence of stress on eating behavior, particularly among restrained eaters and individuals grappling. Currently, his impressive journey at CTCRI extends further as he serves as principal scientist, where his expertise contributes to the field of nutrition-sensitive agriculture, food choice, and consumer behavior. His work includes intricate multivariate modeling of human behavior, shedding light on the complex dynamics that influence our choices in the realm of food and agriculture. With this brief introduction, I would like to hand over the stage to Shivakumar sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Saravanan and Mr. Sajesh. And the other organizing committee members. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. Let me directly share the presentation.
Just a minute, sir. I'll pass over the presenting.
Sharing is not enabled.
Yeah, just a second.
Okay.
Sir, kindly you can share now, sir.
Are you getting the slide?
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Okay. So good morning, good evening to all. And there is some problem in the, the selection because I am outside. I am in Delhi for some program. And today the topic is about the empowering farmers locally, research priorities in agriculture extension. Most of the time, like I'll be sharing my experiences in working with the different farmers group in different regions, especially in the tribal regions. I'll be explaining what we have done and what we are planning to do and what we are expecting, what kind of output we are expecting by doing this. And I'll be starting with some basic conditions to set the context and then finally going into our experiences. If you look at the agriculture in India, the primary word, primary thing which is promoted by Niti Aayog is leading the harvest and nurturing the world. And we say that we are actually the largest producer of milk, pulses, tea, spices, jute, and banana. And the second largest producer of the wheat, rice, vegetables, and sugarcane. And the top 10 exporters of the agricultural produce. And as well as we are witnessing about 4.6% of the agricultural sector in the last few years. And then this context comes in some kind of practical realities. One of the practical realities is the investment in agricultural development. One of the World Bank report says that in 2016 to 18, they have collected the data from 78 countries supported agricultural production. And the total expenditure spent in these countries is about $638 billion US per year. And this is the breakup you can see. It is not only on research, it is on total other things like market price support is about 33%, and other supports, public goods and services, green subsidy, consumer support is about 53%, input subsidies are 14%, output subsidies are 11%, and doubled decoupled transfers in the direct transfer is about 9%. And what happened in the return to investment in agriculture, it is not about agriculture research or extension. Every dollar of public support, the return is only 35 cents. This is a World Bank report. It says that this is the kind of returns we are getting from supporting agriculture in the form of a holistic perspective. But when you look into the micro level, the farm income, about 52.65% of the farm income is derived from crop and animal sciences. So that means that animal sources. That means that a crop is only, you can see about 37.17%. So agricultural income is not primarily now determined by agriculture itself, because it is coming from several sources. And if you see the rural credit courses in the recent times, the government decisions, they are saying like rural credit is not determined based on the agriculture, because rural credit is determined by other sources, because most of a higher percentage of the income is coming from the other than crops. So, and when you look into other areas like malnutrition and others, India, one area is diabetes, diabetic capital in the world. India is the diabetic capital in the world. And we are also having a lot of obesity. And at the same time, we are having a problem of double burden of the malnutrition. So double burden of malnutrition means the children less than 5 years of age, they are having both malnutrition, undernourishment, and as well as the overnourishment. So this is a very typical case. Now malnutrition means we always talk about undernourishment, but we also have the overnourishment because of the high level of feeding of the children with the carbohydrate-rich foods. So we are also having a problem of anemia and other micronutrient deficiency in several states. The micronutrient deficiencies are more than 20%, indicating that anything beyond that 20% prevalence is considered as a public health issue. And the micronutrient deficiency is clearly affecting the GDP growth because of it reduces the human performance. And there are scientific studies which says that the children who are nutrient deficient at the beginning, and they are likely to be having a less cognitive development after the age of 16. So these are all the different things which we are looking into malnutrition. And we are also talking about climate change, and we talk about the reduction in the crop yield. And there are apprehensions about whether in 2030 or 2050, we will be able to have the food which is enough to feed the increasing population. There are several kind of trends are coming in the recent times. So when you look into these kind of trends, because agriculture cannot be seen in a macro level or cannot be seen only in the farmer's micro level. Ultimately, we talk about the word called farmers empowerment. Farmers empowerment over a period of years, how it has looked into that I am just showing the agricultural development pathways since independence 1947 to 2022. Initially, we want to feed the population, more food we need, and we need to alleviate the hunger. So we are focusing on pre-green revolution, means we are preparing 1947 to 64. 65 to 85 is the actual green revolution period, where we developed so many technologies which is increasing the food production, so that we go for some kind of intensification approach. We try to influence the farmers, change the behavior, and so that they can adopt the technology by using the improved technologies, high yielding varieties developed at a research institution, as well as other agricultural practices which are increasing the yield directly or indirectly. By 1986 to 2005, it is reforms and the liberalization period. We looked into diversifying farms and diversifying the farm income. We are looking more into a kind of economic growth, green revolution, and farm diversification. There are the predominant pathways. Actually, I will tell you, pathways means something, the agricultural development objective is formed. That has to be translated into the grassroots level. How it is being translated into grassroots level? Because there are several pathways decided by the agricultural department, and they implement the pathways through some kind of programs. I will tell you what are the different pathways which are implemented there. In 2005 to 2022, Atmanirbhar Bharat, we tried to maximize the farm income in a sustainable way. And we also try to go for some generating self-employment, and youth-based kind of initiatives were taken from 2022. Now, government says 2023 to 2047 is Amrit Kal. So we are looking into multiple objectives during this period. Sustainable, empowered, and inclusive growth is the primary goal of agricultural development. We are now currently, I will say that 4 or 5 pathways are completely operating at different levels. So we are not now, we are in the era, multiple pathways are happening. These are the different pathways which are being implemented in India. Green Revolution pathway is primarily looking into agricultural intensification. Climate resilient pathway, agricultural development pathway is addressing the problems created by the climate change in agriculture. Also looking into the future, what will be the problem which will be coming. Nutrition sensitive agriculture is addressing to the malnutrition. Gender inclusive development and pathway is the increasing the recognition of providing more power to the empowerment of the women. And we are looking into sustainable entrepreneurship pathway, where we are looking into grassroots level agencies like a self-help group and farmer producer organization. These are the 5 different pathways which are operating. All the research, in all 5 different pathways, the ultimate aim, the ultimate goal is the farmers' empowerment. So we can see that what is the meaning of Green Revolution pathway. We are trying to achieve the agricultural intensification by providing a comprehensive support to the farmer. Policy, product, input, credit, market, technology. All these things are given during this in the Green Revolution pathway, so that increasing or expanding the area under the different crop or improved varieties, so that increasing the horizontal and the vertical impact. We are looking into this. Climate resilient pathway, we are catalyzing the innovation system for management of climate change effects. So we are looking into grassroots level in innovation systems. It is not only grassroots level, it is a kind of collaborative effort of different innovation system, because climate change cannot be addressed only through improved varieties. We are looking into stress tolerant varieties. We are looking into seed banks. We are looking into indigenous knowledge. Several things are coming into it. Nutrition sensitive agricultural pathway, we are looking at the combating malnutrition through food system approach. Now the malnutrition is addressed through nutrition sensitive agriculture. Gender inclusive development pathway is promoting gender neutral approaches and providing equal opportunities to women at different levels. Nowadays we are talking about providing the women reservation bill, which is passed yesterday. So we are trying to put the equal gender neutral approaches in everything. And the sustainable entrepreneurship pathway is developing youth force to sustainable entrepreneurship, primarily at the grassroots level. Primarily startups also government is doing, but the more focus is going into the grassroots level. So now I said that farmers empowerment might be seen in a family wise, farm household. There is a farmer, he may be a male or female. There is a farm woman who may not be a farmer and may be helping the farmer, and farm youth, maybe a girl or boy. So we are all the programs, all the empowerment programs which are implemented through these different pathways. The target group is either farmer or farm woman or farm youth, or the stakeholders, other stakeholders. Ultimately, we are trying to introduce, because most of the primary objective of the agricultural development is nothing but the increasing the producer share in the consumer rupee. So if you do it, every problem will be solved. So this increasing the producer share in the consumer rupee is operated in a different context, climate change context, nutrition context, and we are also looking into, we have to give the equal opportunities to women. So the context is different, but ultimately we are trying to say that if you are increasing the farmer's income, ultimately everything will be solved. All problem, irrespective of by looking at the limitations, what the agricultural production system has, looking at the limitations, what the economic systems has, looking at the limitations or the current policy has, though introduce a different kind of intervention to simply increase the farmer's income by looking at the farm household. So primarily empowerment means is we have to make a choice, and the choice has to make transform our conditions, our present conditions. How will you make a choice? The choice is made based on technology. The choice is made based on some kind of a decision to use the input. The choice is made to be a part of a farmers group. The choice is made to be a participant, getting the advisory service. So there are several choices the farmer has to make. The extension system has to facilitate the farmer to make an appropriate decision. So this is what we ultimately, when you are able to do it in a continuous basis, in a period of time, farmer will be empowered. So in a very simple model of empowerment, by looking at all these things like individual characteristics, household characteristics and economic characteristics are put into that model. Some decision-making power is being increased. In addition to crop the grow, income utilization and access to the resources, and empowered if the decision-making is made solely or jointly, not empowered if the decision-making is not the person or the anybody like the farmer or the farm woman or farm youth are not involved in that decision making. We are looking at the farmer empowerment means farm household empowerment. It is not the single person. Farm household, 3 people are there. 3 people will have a different kind of empowerment. Farmer empowerment is different. Farm woman empowerment is different, and farm youth empowerment is different. So there are 3 different dimensions are there in the farm households. Ultimately, we are looking at the increasing in the developmental outcomes, food and nutrition security, farm productivity, farm income, and other things. So this is a very simple model of the farmers empowerment. Okay, now we are looking at the directly coming into the research priorities, because it is only 30 minutes. And here, green revolution pathway, what are all the different research priorities? But I'm not going to talk about what the current level of extension research is being done. I'm looking at the what are all the ideal things we are supposed to achieve. So if you look at the achieving agricultural intensification by providing comprehensive support to the farmer, one of the research priority, which we always know that expansion of area under the improved technologies. So that if you are increasing the area, so the productivity will be increased, so we will be able to achieve the food production. So there are different methodologies, are there, different techniques are there, like we use extension model approach, and then we also do the impact assessment using the different econometric and other psychological based models. We are using it under this category. Design of field intervention models to enhance the adoption. This is the relatively untouched area. Like a design of field intervention, we talk about extension models, but there is no such course like how to develop a extension strategy. So we use different methods called workshops, brainstorming, and the other kind of methods to develop the strategies. And there is an area where we have to, there is a scientific input, like marketing people use that, marketing strategy development. So we need to initiate a lot of research work on how to develop the strategy for designing the field intervention model based on the secondary data, primary data, and pilot plant, pilot scale level. And third one is method mix. Effectiveness of the individual extension methods along with their combination in achieving the specific objective, whether it is an increasing the knowledge in the training or increasing the effectiveness of the particular FLD or whatever we want to do it, we want to mix different methods to see that what is the best method or which is the best combination. There are several research papers were published in this area, including the multimedia, ICT based, and the provision of credit, market, and other support services. This area is coming up recently. People are going into RCT, randomized control trials, where they are selecting the 2 villages. One village will get the planting material and other support. Another village will not get the planting material. They see that based on this kind of facility, some facility, if you are giving, like now, a lot of researchers are coming up when direct benefit transfer. There are many economic research, like what published in like a USA and other places. They are looking at what is the effect of the depositing the money directly into the farmer's account. So there are many researchers are coming, and there are different methodologies they are using it. They are primarily using the experimental methodology, either the pure experiment or quasi-experimental designs they are using it. Technology assessment and refinement, we already know it. We are taking on-farm trials, and we are also doing, KVKs are doing extensively in this area. And we are also looking at the institutional support for facilitating the technology adoption, like Atma, KVK, how different institutions are being formed, the FPOs, and then para-extension workers. So we are looking at the different groups and institutions which will support the technology adoption. Primarily, we are looking at the agricultural intensification in the green revolution pathway. In the second pathway is climate resilient agricultural pathway. The primary objective is catalyzing the innovation systems for management of the climate change efforts. One area which is actually lacking in our work is climate change is something which is not happening now. It is being happening in thousands of years. And we are not the only one who face the climate change efforts. Our ancestors have done it. And there are wealth of knowledge. I will say that the laggards who did not apply any kind of modern technologies, presently they are the wealth of the knowledge on how they are able to manage the climate change by their own indigenous methods. So that is an area where there are many researchers are being done, but still it is lacking. And scientization. Scientization is we are happy after documenting all the innovations, IT case, but there is something which you have to either validate the IT case and then scale it up, and again you can commercialize it. So that is something missing in agriculture, but National Innovation Foundation is doing already. There are some ITK groups are doing it, but still we don't have any clear-cut institutional or process structures available for this scientization. Second one is farmer innovation, which is more related to ITK, but it is different. And we are documenting farmers' innovations, but the validation, scaling, and commercialization is still missing. Because many of the solutions for the climate change, they lies with the people, they lies with the farmers. And it is not necessary that every time you have to conduct a 3 years project or 5 years project to come out with only 1 or 5 stress tolerant varieties. It is already available. We have to take it up and we have to document this, upscale it, validate, and then commercialize it. And another one, identification of classes of people for planning intervention. Vulnerability indexes, absorption capacity levels, resilience indexes. We are looking into composite indexes where we will be identifying the vulnerable groups so that we can make an extension program intervention at that level. So they are basically looking into planning approach. And technology assessment and refinement, primarily looking into stress tolerant varieties, STRV rice. There are so many researches, interventions are being conducted in the Eastern India, and then other stress tolerant varieties. There are many salinity resistant variety and then flood tolerant variety, which can tolerate the waterlogged conditions in rice and wheat and several other crops. We have climate resilient like a salinity tolerant sweet potato. So many, because they are trying to address the problems where we will come back. The farmers, there is a shock, farmer will come back. How so that these things will be helping them. And sweet potato is having that the primary attribute, like even when that there is a huge flood, it will produce the tuber. The tubers will be there. And even when the soil is completely saline, it will produce some kind of tuber. So some of the crops which are identified by the United Nations as well as FAO, that these are the climate, we have to promote this crop prior to climate change, during the disaster and after the disaster. There are plannings there. And we can also do a lot of researches on that. Psychological aspects of climate change. This is relatively untouched area. We looked at the farmers' distress and other problems only primarily due to predict crop failure, and because they are not looking into the psychological aspect. There are a good number of papers published by some of the scientists in the IIT Kharagpur and others. They are looking at the psychological aspect, because resilience is not about crop, it is about human being. If we are not strong, then what about crop? So we are looking into multiple dimensions in the climate change pathway. And one of the example which I want to share from our experiences, like Kunbi tribes of Joida in Uttar Kannada district. And we are having a project with the Kunbi tribes. The difference is, especially I am trying to put in the climate resilient pathway, because they are historically migrated from Goa. So they were sent out from Goa to Uttar Karnataka because of the mining activities. So what they did when they came, whenever we are leaving home, so we used to take some primary, very important things. So they brought one taro from there. So they brought, that is the only agricultural crop which they brought from Goa to Uttar Kannada. So why they brought it? So we have done a study there and we identified that they say that this is the only crop where any kind of climate change, it will be tolerant, and it will save, actually it has saved us in even the times of flood or even the times of water shortage and others. So even now, if you go to Joida it is actually culturally integrated into their Kunbi tribes family. There are plenty of varieties, plenty of food, and even there are so many indigenous storage mechanisms of this the taro, and many kind of indigenous knowledge. If you go to Joida area, you will see that it's a treasure of indigenous knowledge running around only one crop, one climate resilient crop. Now what we are doing is we have documented this IT case, and we are now, one startup is linked with us. That startup, what they do is they are developing the different products from this the taro, and one of our scientist team is already there in Joida now to make a survey, and in a couple of years or maybe in in a year, we will be coming out with a product which is from a crop which is considered as a climate resilient. So this is a kind of area, kind of intervention, because we learned, and one of the traditions which they do is during the Ram Navami, during Ram Navami, they take this leaf and they put the some small Ram's statue there, and they put it in the middle of the pond. So they say that there are so many traditions are there in their culture, where the crop is completely integrated into their culture. And the nutrition sensitive agricultural pathway, it is coming up in recent times, and we are also having a project from our side, that one rainbow diet campaign program, which is being implemented in Northeast, as well as now it will be implemented in Odisha. We have given. So what the different priorities in the nutrition sensitive agricultural pathway is, primarily it looks into combating malnutrition through food system approach. So we need not go for supplementation. We need not go for food fortification. We will go for a naturally the food habits will be changing, helping them to combat the malnutrition. The primary research thing what we do is documentation of the malnutrition, which it is slightly tricky because we need the committee of the IRB to get any malnutrition assessment, and we are collaborating with one of the agencies, and we can take the food choice, how the people are taking different food items and food preferences, as well as different consumption patterns. Because from their food system, we will be able to identify the solutions. One of the example, what I used to do, we have done one seasonal calendar. Seasonal calendar is a very common thing. We have used a seasonal calendar to identify the problems in the food system in the Northeast in Tripura. So we put all the variables into the seasonal calendar: consumption, month-wise, production, month-wise, what are all the different crops are there month-wise, what are all the different food items are being consumed during the month. Everything we put a very big seasonal calendar. We put everything there. So when you make a seasonal calendar of two or three groups, you will be able to identify why people are consuming this crop during this month, why not they consume the other crop. And they also have a habit of doing the preservation of the different food items, crops, because they have in Naga and other places, they use the chula, they use it. On the top, there is a frame, they store it because it's curing for 1 month. So we can identify the solutions for the malnutrition by their own food habits. Second thing is documentation and scaling up of the indigenous knowledge is also recipes, nutrition sensitive extension, intervention, planning and implementation. We can do a lot of designing kind of thing, what we have done recently. And sensory and consumer studies, it has to be done in the nutrition sensitive agricultural pathway. And priority indices we can develop to identify the target population. One priority index we developed was the sweet potato biofortification priority index. It was published also. And the technology assessment and refinement also we can do. So these are the three primary pathways. Apart from this, we have the sustainable agricultural entrepreneurship pathway, where we can implement all the entrepreneurship related things, like entrepreneurial capacity of the FPOs, or entrepreneurial intention of the agricultural students, or entrepreneurial orientation of the existing FPOs or existing startups. Then ecosystem studies, entrepreneurial ecosystem studies. So many kind of things which we can do in this. And gender equity and others, we can say we have already done a lot of work on gender mainstreaming and gender neutral approaches. And we can do a lot of gender friendly technologies. We will be able to test it. And ergonomic pathway, ergonomic methods are there, where it will tell you that in which mode of operation, the particular where energy consumption is less, which is not harmful to us. So there now ICTs are coming, like they are real time, they are tracking in using the artificial intelligence. And like when we go to Maruti, we drive virtual driving. Like that, there is a training modules are being developed for agricultural machineries and others. So we can go into kind of any level of depth from the very preliminary level to the end. But when you look into the different emerging research priorities in agriculture based on the pathway, there are some skills are required. The primary skill is we have to understand how research is being conducted. So how the construct identification, the very important component in is when you want to manipulate a system, first thing is you should understand the system first. Then once you understand the system first, you will be able to identify the how system functions, what are the different elements in the system, how the elements are interconnected with each other, whether they are whether which element is influencing another element. When you are looking into a kind of system approach. So if you are trying to make a system, a change in the system, when you want to implement the system approach, there you have to follow some kind of quantitative methodologies. You have to go for multivariate statistics. And again, we are going into in the area of a prediction. We try to forecast. Forecasting is not about economics. It is machine learning, as well as we are also going into the IoT. So these are the very emerging areas. We should be able to understand that basic machine learning languages, because it is not like when we go, we learn something. Now Python is must. So R, expertise in R is must. And we should be able to, there are many small like apps are there which will help us to improve our writing, improve our research planning, as well as improve our analytical procedures. And one is Grammarly, and then some of the apps will help us to improve our production, like our media skills, like a Canva, which now the presentation which I am using, the Canva, it is directly presented on Canva. So there are media skills we have to develop it, because when you want to survive, when you want to undertake this kind of studies, multivariate system perspective, multivariate thoughts, expertise in multivariate and machine learning language, and you should be able to present your outputs or present your work in a very impactful way. These are the very few things which are required at this level to look into or to undertake the next level of our research based on the research priorities which we discussed here. With this, I will close my presentation. Thank you for.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for highlighting all the important pathways. As I have noted already, green revolution, climate resilient, and nutrition sensitive, as you mentioned, these are the three important pathways which need to be focused. Apart from that, you also mentioned secondary like entrepreneurial gender, which the works is going on, but we need to give more focus on the three primary pathways. Apart from that, we really like that you said that to change the system, we first need to understand the system, and then we need to understand how the system approach we need to take and how different things. You ended by saying that no, like with the current trend, we need to use different apps, like, and we need to reinvent ourselves with current trend so that we stay in the market and we stay in the limelight and we stay in the front of the research community. So with this, sir, I will ask you to be with us. We'll take the question and answer after the second session of this program, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we have with us for second half of the presentation, we have with us Mr. Sarjesh Gupta, sir. He's a dedicated professional who has made remarkable strides in the field of climate change research and sustainable agriculture. Mr. Gupta currently serves as the manager of climate change research at Aga Khan Research Society, India, where his passion for innovation and his commitment to sustainable development shine brightly. He is also the founder and lead for Center for Grower-Centric Eco-Value Mechanism, or CGEM, an initiative designed to scale climate finances and support the agroecological transition of smallholders. The work he's doing at CGM holds immense significance in the context of agriculture, climate resilience, and smallholder empowerment. By channeling his skills in entrepreneurship, new business development, and strategic planning, Mr. Gupta is driving forward the mission of ensuring that smallholder farmers have access to the resources and support they need to thrive in a changing climate. One of the key areas of expertise that Mr. Gupta brings to a table is his profound understanding of climate change adaptation. In a world where the impacts of climate change are felt acutely by agriculture, his insight into adaptation strategies are invaluable. With this brief introduction, I'd like to hand over the stage to Sajay, sir. Sir, over to you. Sajay, sir, you're not audible. Kindly check your mic connection once. I would like other participants to be kindly on mute so that we can once check.
Hello?
Yeah, hello. Hello.
Is it working? Hello?
Yes, it is working. So yes, sir, go ahead. It is working.
Okay, thank you. I had to turn off my video. I guess there's some bandwidth issue.
Yeah, bandwidth issue. No issue,
Yeah.
sir. You can share your presentation. We have also given right if you have a presentation, or you can talk directly, sir.
No, I have a presentation like always. Thank you for that introduction, Anand. You always embarrass me with this longish introductions.
No,
Good
sir.
evening, Sarvanan sir. Good evening, Seturaman sir, and my dear friends. Can you see my screen? There are too many
Yes, sir.
windows.
It is visible, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Let me present it on. Okay, cool. Is it full
Yes,
screen?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Okay. So, as Seturaman sir already set the context for me. So, thank you for that, Dr. Seturaman. We are today talking about research priorities in agricultural extension. This presentation specifically has few disclaimers. First, this is not a data-driven presentation. This presentation is driven by experience that I've had working in this sector with multiple CSOs, multiple NGOs, multiple communities, and leading my own initiative. And this has recommendations and theoretical frameworks from the policy studies I've done in the past. As you can see in the screen itself, I've put agricultural extension and an arrow pointing towards an hand. And this is what we really are. In agriculture development context of any countries, and specifically in India, we have been the hand who has extended agricultural technologies to people, who have extended feedback from field back to research stations, and whose primary job is to extend, and you extend with your voices, with your mind, and with your hand. Second disclaimer is everything is connected to everything else. Whatever I'm going to speak about today, I may speak in brackets, characterizations, factors, and other, you know, other elements of reductionist science. But everything that I'll be presenting happens simultaneously and in interaction with each other. It does not happen in isolation. So about me, I've been the founder of CGEM for past 1.5 years. CGEM, Center for Grower-Centric Eco-Value Mechanisms, help farmers access carbon and climate finances. We are world's first non-profit community-centric initiative to help communities get better access, better negotiating power, and better prices for the ecosystem service they provide during their agroecological transition. I was the founding employee of National Coalition for Natural Farming, India's only and first network on natural farming with 800 plus network members. As the founding batch of Indian School of Public Policy, as well as the founding batch of Accelerated Management Program from Harappa School of Leadership. First, we are going to talk about how research priorities are set in agriculture. As I said, there are multiple factors, there are multiple political and technical processes that goes while you're setting research priorities. Research priorities are mostly set in the higher echelons of institutions such as Niti Aayog, Ministry of uh, uh, Ministry of Farmer Welfare, Ministry of Fertilizers, Ministry of Energy. But there are two pertinent factors that we need to keep in mind while understanding how um, how priorities are set in agriculture. First, changing social context, which I called external factors. External factors include, pressure from climate change, pressure from ecosystem change, the growing population, the population going into rural areas, rural to urban migration nexus. Young population do not want to engage in agriculture. Economic policy has their own targets. Climate policy of India has their own commitments. Then there is food security. Food security in terms of will we be able to feed every last one of us? And nutritional insecurity, understanding how food has increased in past phases of green revolution, but nutrition has failed to scale and getting secured for many. Plus, we now have a renewed focus on sustainability by government institutions, by international institutions, and agroecology as an upcoming science, an upcoming frontier of agriculture, so as to say. Then there are internal factors such as scientific developments and scientific innovations, including innovations on behavioral sciences, how people react to colors, how people react to taste, how people react to smell of things that they are going to buy. Evaluation and assessment techniques ranging from regression techniques to multivariate techniques, understanding how artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms are going to change how we do evaluation in general. New data collection techniques using spatial technologies and satellite data, technological changes in general in farming specifically. So how people uh, understand technology, what are the new technologies that are upcoming, how they are penetrating throughout, and some sociological phenomena such as the recent phenomena of feminism, understanding empowerment, pushing agriculture to go beyond its limits to serve the family first and then the market. So these two external and internal factors move with each other. As I said, these are unisolated. Like the jar which is on your right, these processes happen in a world which we call Earth, where rocks and leaves and everything live together. So these processes are not in isolation. They interact with each other constantly and create trade-offs for research priorities and any kind of priorities in agriculture. As Sri Praveen Kumar said in a managed program, I remember that we need to reorient research of agricultural extension towards national priorities and focus on applied research to address farmers' challenges, which was echoed again by Dr. Shekhar, DG of Manage, that extension should deal with field level problems first and research should find solutions to those problems. So as I am moving towards identifying research priorities, these two quotations speak volume about what I just showed you, that there are multiple institutional, external, and as well as internal factors that shapes opinions and that shapes priorities when it comes to priorities. Priorities, everyone has different priorities, right? You and I have different priorities. Your priority is to get into career, my priority is to probably grow, help community institutions. Institutions such as Manage has priorities to help people such as students such as you to be better extension professionals. Similarly, there are priorities, what farmers want, what institutions want, what policymakers want, what general public wants. And prioritization inherent is a matrix that helps you in deciding where your resources will be utilized. So essentially is a factor of trade-off. What decisions are taken and what is prioritized defines whose priorities are being prioritized. I've put farmers in center because essentially everything goes back to them. First, we are going to talk about a frontier in agriculture, which is shaping how we look at agriculture in general, which is called agroecology in general, which is in most broader sense how we define landscape level transformation. But landscape level transformation and agroecology has two components to it. So agroecology is a scientific approach in how you're looking at agriculture again, looking at agriculture from an ecological lens rather than a prescriptive lens, in which farmers and farming is participatory in your extension and scientific processes. So creating systems, natural systems and natural integrations that help each other create a feedback loop so that your system is self-sustaining in some amount or way, which means minimal moderation and minimal interference from human probably can create an agroecological system in fields which has to be designed meticulously so that transition from conventional to other forms of sustainable agriculture can happen. So here you have a beautiful presentation of pathway of how agroecology works or how agroecological resilience works in general, which was presented by FAO in one of the meetings. And it concises all the points that I'm going to talk about agroecology. So we need a system which is diverse, which is heterogeneous. We need systems which is healthy soils, and we need agricultural systems which are not isolated from the social components of it, which means aspiration of farmers, aspiration of their families, understanding the social context, understanding gender, caste system, and everything. It helps increase adaptive capacity. So here comes the question of research priorities. What is adaptive capacity? What is resilience? How does vulnerability happen on the ground? What can be reduced to what can we do to reduce vulnerability? What frameworks and in general agricultural transition helps in creating impact to reduce vulnerability to get overall resilience? As previously mentioned, resilience is part of human factor. Plus, it is part of how your natural ecosystem works in general. So if we have to talk about on-farm transitions of agroecology, we are going to talk about multiple things, but multiple things need to start from somewhere. First question that comes when we talk about new sustainable on-farm transition is we are moving away from prescriptive extension systems, where people were being told to teach people to do this or that. So how does peer-to-peer extension system works? What is the validity of such extension system? How do you create and design such extension systems? And how do you evaluate such extension systems? You're going to also talk about how ecosystem services, so services provided by transition and your ecosystem. For example, transition from fertilizers to biological fertilizers or biological components create better quality of water. Having better soil structures helps store more water on the ground. Creating pest and predator complexes reduces the amount of pesticide that we need to put in to create an agroecosystem. And how can ecosystem services and other externalities of farming system can be incorporated into decision making? It's one of the fundamental questions that is being asked from extension services throughout the world. And biggest extension people are trying their brain of understanding decision making systems in agroecological, in complex systems in general. How practical are different trainings and skill development approaches in delivering agroecology? If your farming system is complex and non-prescriptive, how do you create training programs and skill development programs and basically knowledge of development programs? And what are the biophysical and socioeconomical indicators that can be used to track this transition of agroecology? Agroecology goes from
Rajesh sir, you're not audible. Sir, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir. Please go ahead.
Sorry. So as I was saying, how can you create biophysical and socioeconomic indicators to understand how this transition is happening today? Agroecology goes from genome level to sector level. Having sector-wise indicators on how sustainable transition happen on the ground is one of the most fundamental needs of today from extension services. Then we are going to talk about food system transformation. Previously, we are only talking about on-farm transition, but as Dr. Sethuruman was also mentioning, that it is only a part of it. Now farmers are earning more then non-farm elements, then farming elements, then cultivation elements. So what are non-farm elements? And if there are non-farm elements that are impacting or integrating with your farming systems, shouldn't extension systems apply to all of this? So it is an extension of extension system when we talk about food system transformation. We're talking about how to create support systems, how to create decision making systems, how to create linkages with market, with other schemes. We are talking about how natural resource management and extension services work there. How can we talk, how, what can we talk about policy level changes and changes of land management practices in general? So knowledge, definition, awareness, and extension is taken away from your regular cultivation practices to talk on all of this. And I believe this particular narrative opens up a lot of space for agricultural extension players to work in. You know what are specific elements that women look at when they want to create kitchen gardens, or what are the perception of families in which their labor is divided between farm and non-farm transitions? How best can we quantify economic viability, biodiversity conservation, and ecosystem services in agricultural landscape? How to integrate non-farm livelihoods with on-farm transition, behavior and perception changes while having this transition, impacts of different policy instruments, economic tools, including direct benefit transfers, taxes and penalties for ecosystem disservice, as well as payment for ecosystem services. And how do we train and aware farmer on ecological complexity and nuances? There are no courses or curriculum right now which or no extension framework which can help us deliver adult education to rural farmers in such a way that it talks about climate change, it talks about complexity of natural ecosystem, it talks about their role in it, and how to maximize the benefit by doing minimum interventions. Then there's a new category of extension altogether: urban farming. So most of agri extension throughout history has only dealt with rural context. But this is a very new and exciting category, which means your decision support services are now needed by another category of consumers which live in cities. Every day, some people ask me, how can I create an hydroponic farm in my own terrace? Or how can I create an organic terrace garden? Or how can I do vertical systems inside restaurants so that their leafy needs are reduced from market? Now, these people need extension. They do not only want extension, but they need extension. And no, right now, no broader extension services are being catering to these particular set of consumers that are right now here. So what are the tools and techniques to support cultivation of urban food gardens? How does urban farmers differ from rural farmers in terms of their context, in terms of their behavior, in terms of their priorities, and in terms of their knowledge? Farmers in rural contexts come with generational knowledge of agriculture. These are new farmers. These are farmers who do not have intergenerational background in agriculture. How does knowledge seeking and adoption behavior of urban farmers is different from rural farmers? What behavioral cues can be used to motivate urban seekers to become farmers? This is another element, another dimension that current social context has opened up for extension and extension research. Then we are going to talk about technological advances. So technological advances ranging from drones, satellites, precision farming techniques, genetic engineering, somatic engineering, reducing waste, improving sustainability, circular economy, everything. How does extension play a role here depends on how much we engage with these topics on day-to-day basis. So there's a need for, you know, there's a need for extension professional to go beyond the bounds of natural extension discipline, to understand technology a little bit in detail so that they understand what does this advances mean for extension on the ground. How does a rural farmer interact with these technologies? How does community institutions interact with these technologies? FPOs are adopting drones because there's a huge government subsidy. What are they doing with these technologies? Or are they just utilizing the subsidy in some ways? How can we improve functioning of a landscape, not individual farmers anymore, farmers in a cluster, farmers in a landscape, using technologies that are redefining how knowledge is generated and data is created from the ground? Then, of course, we are going to talk about indigenous technology because, as Dr. Seturaman also mentioned previously, indigenous technologies are the climate resilient techniques that our forefathers knew and we do not appreciate or know right now. For example, there are specific houses, made in high flood area to store grains, better than any high cost technology that we can see today. As you can see in 2A, it's one of the photographs in 2A. Then you must have heard of Akadi Salu. Akadi Salu in part of Karnataka was a traditional practice where 12 to 15 varieties were grown together in a kitchen garden like of a scenario, which provided food and nutrition throughout year, where each individual seeds and plants helped other plant grow. So you have feed, fodder, as well as food, nutrition, everything completed from a cooking system.
তো মাছগুলো সব বিষাক্ত হয়ে যাচ্ছে।
Okay.
মাছগুলো বিষাক্ত।
And then there are new advances in indigenous technologies which we are limiting ourselves to by not understanding how indigenous technologies interact with science. For example, there's new plethora of knowledge that is coming from research activities on agroeconomic sciences and climate sciences, which tells you that shifting cultivation of 12 to 15 species after slash and burn in minimal sort of area help the forest regenerate 8 times better, and carbon sequestration benefits 4 times better. We always had blamed and put shifting cultivation under a veil, but probably it's time to relook at multiple things that we left, saying that probably it is superstitious or it does not have any scientific validity. It's part and parcel of extension science to understand, document, evaluate these technologies so it can come into mainstream sciences. How does transfer of generational knowledge happen? Where is generational knowledge going? Is it safe in some places, or from everywhere it has reduced to dust? These are specific priorities that we are focusing on indigenous technology research, extension research right now. So, I can go on and on about different categories that are important for prioritizing extension research. But I thought let's give you a list rather than, seeing everything in multiple slides. So we need extension for sustainability. We need extension for consumer choices. We need extension for climate services, gender empowerment, agroecology, nutrition sensitive agriculture, urban farming, market development, community institutions. Extension is moving away from rural context in some ways. There are, in my last conversation with you guys of Manage, I also mentioned that there are newer ag techs happening everywhere. They do not understand what extension can do for them. Neither does extension discipline understand what they can do for market, or extension professional understand what they can do for these market people. How can we move beyond to understand consumer behavior while buying vegetables, while buying fruits, while understanding what to buy and what not to buy, while understanding nutrition and climate science related to their food? What do they want? What do they need? So going away from rural context to marketing, to community institutions, to policy instruments are the new frontiers of extension research priority. What I'm going to not talk about, and probably leave you with is a question on what is needed. As I've talked about many different things, and you can self-evaluate yourself. How much did you know of this presentation? How much did you not know? What skills do you need? And are you available for any opportunity that might come knocking at your door to do this sort of extension research? We are living in a very inspiring space and time where new agricultural scientists, new extension scientists have the power to reframe how agricultural extension should be looked at and what it should be doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sajay sir. The most important thing I will be appreciating is both our speakers stuck to their very allotted time, and they highlighted all the important points that was needed to be there. So the house is right now open for questions. We can have questions for both our speakers. Either you can write your questions in the chat box if you're having an issue, the connective issue, or you can raise your hand to ask direct questions to both of them. I would like to start with a small query to Sethuraman sir as well as Sajay sir. Sethuraman sir, this particular program was focused mainly on PG and PhD students. And so, how can we direct their research to focus and address the national focal points? Like usually, we will go for a very small research in PhD or where it will be very concentrated, and even the results are not properly represented onto the higher level. So how can we address to this issue?
So one thing is there's a significant change in the approach of the government in the previous one and the current government. They are actually integrating our research programs, even research institutions, especially research institutions. Our research programs are integrated based on the development priorities like identified by the government. And we have been asked, and recently I think you know that ICSR project for impact assessment, there is a special call. So that means that there is a convergence which is happening between the government objectives and the way the research institutions are working. But when you look into the SAUs, the research extension research in SAUs, they are determined based on the guide's expertise, expectations of the university, as well as the capabilities of the student, interest and capabilities of the student. So probably when you want to reap benefits, means in the sense to get any recognition at the national level or any kind of, if you want to your research to attract the future research, like a current work will be a basement for the future research. So you have to look into any of the pathways which we have I discussed already. And these are the different pathways where several programs are being implemented. Like you see soil health card. So soil health card is coming under the sustainable or climate change kind of agricultural pathway. Any insurance is coming in the climate change agricultural pathway. So many programs are coming, knowingly or unknowingly, coming into different pathways. One aspect where you can do is impact assessment of the programs. Already government is doing it, but students also can do in a different perspective. They can use the participatory qualitative impact assessment methodologies, where you will be getting more perspectives rather than the quantitative data. So they can go for it, impact assessment, or else they can also try, because primarily if you want to integrate the pathway-based research in a university, the research guide has to take up a multiple students. Like one pathway, if you want to take, you cannot simply close with only one student. You cannot pressurize a PhD student to do everything. You split the work, give the MSc some work, PhD some work, then you try to integrate and make a report. But that is actually happening in other institutions. But unfortunately, it is not happening in our agriculture university system.
So what will you say, sir? Why is this lacking? This approach is lacking. Because I was going to add this as a query. So can we do it can we break the particular objectives in among 4 or 5 students and they can do it? We have seen this happening in US and other institutions, but why not in India, sir?
I think that we have to give some sensitization program for the faculties or the other key officials of the university. Maybe a MANAGE is already doing it. MANAGE is already doing the sensitization program, but we have to intensify. But the thing is, it is the decision of the authorities in the universities to depute the people or to see that whether it is important. But some people can do. So for the participants who are attending this program, if they are associated with the university, they can take at their own level. Then slowly they can expand to other areas.
Sujay sir, would you like to add it from the perspective of like working in a non-government organizations and directly as a public policy analyst also?
There are two specific problems when it comes to your questions. There's an individual capability constraint. You know, the skills that are needed to do most of the big researches. We talk about agriculture extension being an interdisciplinary science, but the you know con of it is that we understand none of the sciences better than their puristic counterparts. So we do not understand psychological sciences as we should. We do not understand econometric and economic sciences as we should. So interdisciplinary sciences brings a lot of responsibility to the reader of interdisciplinary science. You have to choose your skills. You have to get better at it by the time you reach a PhD. Second is, a priority complex, the complex in a negative connotation at the institutions. So agricultural extension departments in SAUs are one of the most underfunded departments. Agricultural extension in general throughout India has been looked at para workers, if not to say anything else, just to push the technology to rural contexts. No one has really focused on what extension research should be doing. And you need incentives, you need wider manifestations of institutions to make this happen. You probably need, institutions outside, universities outside do experimental research, psychological research in a lab experiment. No PhD scholar, at least that I know, in extension department throughout India has the kind of resources, grants, subsidies to make that kind of experiment happen in India. So we need, a dedicated funding, research funding, and that fund can set priorities for people. So you can say, 5 grants will be given to PhD students of X amount who will work on indigenous technologies. And who PhD student would not apply? Like Manage does it. Manage creates this event session where best theses and best books are awarded. So that is an incentive metric for people to move beyond. Now, Manage can choose we will give best thesis in this particular topic. And of course, you'll get better research on this topic, but you'll have to tell it prior. You'll have to tell it today for 26. You cannot, 26 ko koi nahi kara hoga. So 2023, you'll have to say on 2026 will honor particular institutions or students doing this thing. So you need a broader systemic level change. Plus, scholars have much more responsibility on their shoulder when it comes to interdisciplinary sciences, humanistic sciences such as extension.
There's a question directly towards Shivakumar sir. Is what kind of tools can we use to access indigenous knowledge about food?
Yeah, there are many tools which I am not able to remember as of now. For plant biodiversity assessment, there is a biodiversity index is there. And then there are many, you have to look into the botany, like the biodiversity, there are some specific papers are there. Apart from the tools which we already use it for, primarily we do key informant interviews. We go for PRA techniques where we document it and we go for a key informant interviews. And in case of like food products, we follow ethnic food festivals. So where we give prizes for the best food. So that's the primary way I have documented more than about 300 different recipes we have documented. We published 2 booklets also. That is one way we used to say recipe contest that we used it. And again, we are also validating the some of the recipes which we have done it. We are through some like our post-harvest people are already doing it. And apart from this, there are other ways like observational methods also you can use it. Some practices, indigenous practices, rituals, cultures. those things, the non-participant observation method, you can use it. And for different identifying biodiversity, I said that the biodiversity index can be used. Then if you read the IJTK journal, as well as there are indigenous knowledge journals which are at the international level, you will find a very new tools, different kind of coefficients they are calculating it. So I am not able to remember some of them, but you can always refer it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the other question is directed to Sarish sir from Dr. Alo, is how can we focus or go adult literacy in case of climate change and different technological options available at our disposal?
Very interesting question. So climate change, we'll have to talk about climate change in multiple verticals. We'll have to talk about climate science. We'll have to talk about climate change mitigation. We'll have to talk about climate change management. We'll have to talk about climate change adaptation, adaptation at an individual level, adaptation at a group level, different policy instruments to make this adaptation happen. What does individual people? So I'll tell you a story. Some farmers in tribal parts of Madhya Pradesh, when I visited them, could not move to bajra, which was their traditional crop. Now they're having water scarcity problem, so they want to move towards bajra. But the major problem is if one farm moves to bajra while other farms do not, the birds will eat away every single one of the grain. The problem is not birds. The problem is only one element in the system moving. So if you want to see a transformative change, you'll have, from a climate change angle, you'll have to see how this landscape transformation happens. So in adult literacy programs, my experience have been this. It cannot happen one-off. It happens in batches. They will not come to you to understand about climate change. You'll have to go to them to tell them about climate change. And go to them meaning both in terms of personal understanding as well as technological reach. So I'm not sure how many of you guys have seen, but have you seen Kisan.ai? Kisan.ai is a chat GPT sort of tool where you can put agricultural questions and they will give it will give you agricultural solution. It's trained on very limited data, what was available through agricultural resources, but it has a wide adaptability. So people can talk to Google like a app, speak to it in their own vernacular languages, and it will provide you solution. Similarly, you can think about adult education or education for climate change and how climate change affects them and how they can mitigate and adapt to some of the climate changes that might come to them. So yeah, that's my long answer to a very short question.
Thank you, sir. We will take one last question, which is pertinent to this particular session to both our speakers. Is very often it is mentioned about changes in agriculture policies. Should policymakers reorient their efforts toward development of an agriculture extension and research policy for better serving the farming community? Shivakumar sir, your opinion on this? Sir, you need to unmute yourself.
So the policies are formed to support a system, support a plan, or support a intervention, what government is planning at the macro level. Normally, policies are made to implement a development objective, maybe agricultural development objective, through some kind of pathways or which are composed of different programs and projects. Basically, pathways are being implemented through programs and projects. So when you are implementing a program or project, so government has to implement those things, so they have to make a policy change. So one of the examples, we can say about the subsidies. Now government is directly depositing the money into the farmer's account. So this is a policy change. So why they have done it is they want the farm income to be increased, and they are already doing it through some kind of like a farming system approaches and linking with the livestock and then integrating with the poultry and others and connecting them in the industries also. They are doing it, doubling the farmer's income for processing the produce and others to supplement or as well as to support whatever government is doing it. They are also giving the money because directly depositing money into that account will have multiple effects. Not only that, the research says that it is not that it is not, everybody thinks that it is used for consumption purpose. No, it actually helps the farmer at the critical times. So this is one of the policy change government has made to support the doubling of the farmers' income, or farmers to achieve the ultimate objective of the getting the farmer empowerment or achieving the farmers' welfare. And when government is talking about IP policies, like IP policy, government is saying now you have to patent everything, and then farmers' knowledge and innovations has to be done. And they have made some policy changes in the agricultural policy, like a PPVFRA. Primarily, it recognizes the farmers' rights. So it is a policy to support the documentation and utilization of the farmers' knowledge as well as the biodiversity by sharing the benefit to the community which preserve the biodiversity over a period of years. So policies are coming, institutions are being developed so that the agricultural development objective is being implemented in a proper way to achieve the specified objectives.
Sir, Shajesh sir, kindly give your opinion to the same question.
So there are two answers to the question that has been asked. Should policymakers reorient their efforts towards development of an agri-extension and research policy? Agri-extension and research policy already exists. We have a department called DARE to do it. Every pertinent agricultural system in the world has an extension and research policy. So it's not a question whether policymakers should reorient themselves. Policymakers should only think about agriculture development. But the second part of this question, of this answer would be, you do not need a specialized extension policy to make extension happen. Extension is everywhere. Wherever you'll talk about a new agri-tech, extension is there. When you talk about new schemes, extension is there. It's like saying, analogous to saying, should we create an agri communication policy? Of course not. Communication is everywhere wherever additional agricultural development policies are. So it's better to ask policymakers to reorient themselves to deliberately put agriculture extension and designs of each schemes, rather than we trying to figure out where does agriculture extension starts and end in this particular scheme. The policymakers, the experts, the technical people should deliberately put it into the design so that you can see multiple benefits of extension happening.
Thank you, Shajesh sir. I would like to summarize today's sessions by saying that the pathways as defined by Shivakumar sir, the pathways are present as defined by Shajesh sir. Ecological and climate change is the important pathway right now to focus for national agriculture extension priorities. And as sir already, both of them already mentioned that there are policies already present. We just need to reorient ourselves to according to them and be in forefront of making change in the agriculture development. Also, we need to change ourselves with current tools, like Suresh sir mentioned of Kisan AI, and Sethuraman sir that mentioned that we can use different apps and as well as Canva. And we just saw an example as Sethuraman sir ended his presentation. Sujesh sir was kindly using Canva to make his own presentation. So it's like a live example we saw just now that how an example set by Sethuraman sir was already in place by Sujesh sir. So with this brief conclusion, on behalf of Manage and on behalf of Dr. Suryanarath sir, course director for this particular program, I would like, and on behalf of all our participants, I'd like to thank both the speakers for giving their valuable time and taking their most important efforts in guiding the PG, PhD, as well as the other extension professionals who are joined with us right now. Thank you so much to both our speakers. Thank you, sir, Shivakumar sir, and thank you, Suresh sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sethuraman and Mr. Sajesh. Thank you very much. Nice to see you, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
So we will be ending the webinar now. Thank you so much, everyone.